Welcome to today's episode of Behind the Zoo. Today we're doing a Q&A episode. It's actually our 4th episode, and we're not in our little home studio. If you follow us over on our main channel, Two in a Zoo, you know that we are road tripping back home from our cabin in Tennessee, so we're filming special on location. We're about an hour from home, and we're ready to answer some questions. So we have 7 questions that we're going to cover today, and by the way, sorry the video's a little shaky. We're in the car, and Melanie...
I'm not looking at the camera because I gotta look on the road.
She should be looking at the road, right? But she's gonna chime in, and we're gonna answer these questions together. So here's the first question. How did you and your family decide to adopt an older child as opposed to a baby or a toddler? I feel like we've talked about this before, but we've never covered it officially in a Q&A video, so we figured we'd talk about it. And I'll field this question. We actually signed up and registered with Cadence, which is like the website for Cara in India, or at least it was when we went through the program. And we originally chose 2 sibling girls, or rather we registered or requested 2 sibling girls under 4. And there's a long history for why we were willing to accept siblings. But suffice it to say, we originally did register for younger children, and eventually in the program we did bump that up because they just were not matching us with anyone. And I mean, it was a long time and they never matched us with anyone. We were pretty impatient because it was like approaching a year, and Cara hadn't even talked to our agency at all. I mean, 0 radio silence from Cara, and our agency couldn't really do anything else other than say, maybe it's the fact that you registered for younger children, maybe it's the fact that you specified siblings. We really don't know because Cara isn't telling us. So at some point we bumped it up to the next category, which was 6 and under. And we I don't remember how long we were in that category, but it didn't seem like too long after being in that category. They matched us with a 6-year-old girl, which was Katie. And when they matched us, she was 6. She turned 7 during the waiting period of us trying to finalize everything to go bring her home. So she had one last birthday at the orphanage where she knew she had a mommy and daddy, and that they were on the way to come get her as soon as they could. So that's that, I guess. We didn't set out to adopt an older child, but when we got her profile, when they matched us, Cara matched us. Back then, they would actually match you with 2 children. They matched us with Katie and an 8-year-old girl. And just looking at Katie's photo, the moment we saw her, something about her, just her innocence, her features, her eyes stood out to us. She was so beautiful, and there was something a little pouty about her photo because they took that photo on the same day we believe they did medical exams. So we don't think she was very happy about having her photo taken that day. But there's just something that just stuck out about her. And I called Melanie when we got the referral, and I said, did you see we got the referral? And I think you'd already seen it. And we were like, what are we going to do? They didn't match us with a little girl. They matched us with 2 older children. And we said, well, the 8-year-old girl's way out of our range. We hadn't even considered that. And based on what we originally thought about 2 children under 4, even a 6-year-old was out of our range. But we still made the decision that why would we continue to wait on something that Cara has basically indirectly told us is just not going to happen, is not available, when these 2 little girls need a family. Now, Cara would not let us choose both girls. They made us choose between them, and we chose Katie because she just, something about her, like I said, just stuck out to us. We felt like she was our daughter, and we knew that if we moved forward with her, time would tell if she was, because it would either work out or it wouldn't, and it did. So that's that. That's how we came to choose an older child, and we realized she needed a home as much as a baby, as much as a 2-year-old or a 4-year-old. And we also made the decision not to let fear stop us from offering her a home, because the thing that they warn you about tons of things that could be problems with older children, and social workers, they do the job of scaring you because they have to give you the worst case scenario of how everything can turn out. And none of it has occurred with Katie. And we know that it does occur with other people. So we're not saying that that's a myth by any means, or that those things don't happen. But I think we realized she needed a home, and we didn't want to let fear stop us from being willing to accept what it felt like God was giving us. So that's that. Okay, on to question number 2. And Melanie's going to do this one. When you started thinking about adoption, what did your children think or feel? And bear in mind, Caleb was the only child old enough to talk. Back then, Logan was not even talking. He was very young. So what did Caleb think or feel, Mom?
Caleb was excited for his sister. I think he had this underlining fear that he was going to have to take care of her, or be like a parent to her, which we quickly said, no, that's not your role. Right. And then he was way more excited. But at first he was like, I can't even take care of Logan and Timmy. Why would you add another child onto this? But I think that's because he's the firstborn and he's the oldest, and he feels that responsibility. He has responsibility, right? That is not something that we put on him by any means. It's just something that he tends to be the leader. So, but he was really excited. He was really excited to have a sister. Logan actually gave up his room for her. Willingly gave up his room for her. So that was really, really sweet. And that was kind of his stamp of approval on this whole thing, because he was willing to give up something that was his for her and move in with Caleb. And they were really excited that they got to have bunk beds and things like that. So it wasn't any really big deal.
Yeah, they made lemonade out of lemons. Yes. Even though it wasn't even lemons. But you know what? It makes me wonder if we have old videos on this channel where we showed Logan's room before it was Katie's room. And if I can find those videos, you'll see a card right now in the upper right corner, and you can go see videos of when Logan's room was Logan's room before it was Katie's room. So that was Logan's way of
putting his stamp on it.
Yeah, exactly.
And Timmy's he goes with the flow, so it doesn't nothing really bothers him.
Timmy's actually acted like Cadence has always been someone in our family. Mm-hmm. As if she just lived somewhere else for a while before she came home. You know what I mean? Yeah. Timmy from day one has just been so natural. Like, Cadence has always been here. Yes. In fact, Timmy very well may never have memories before Cadence. Even though he was 3 when she came home, he still just may grow up with a sense that she's always been around. And that's kind of cool. That's pretty neat. Next one. We get this question often now, especially because Caleb and Logan are in soccer. Will Katie do any extracurricular activities? In fact, we get this sometimes in such a tone like, why don't you put her in dance? Why have you not put her in soccer? Yeah. Why are you showing favoritism to Caleb and Logan? And that's not it at all. She's a good 6 months away from being able to do anything like that, because she needs to be able to have some kind of true understanding to be able to receive instruction from a coach, because sporting coaches, they deliver instruction very fast. And it's never one-on-one, it's to an entire group. And it might be easy for her just to look to the left and look to the right and mimic the other children, but that's a really tough way to learn a sport, where you don't even get to verbally receive instruction from your coach. You have to just kind of mimic what's going on around you and just hope you're doing great. And just kind of look at mom and dad, and if they're clapping, we assume you're doing great. Right. There's just, we're not comfortable with that, and we want her to be able to truly receive instruction from whatever coach she has, or if she does dance, we want her to be able to go into it with a true sense of comfort. Because the one thing she wasn't able to wait on and have comfort with was family. She was tossed into the deep end of the pool. She didn't understand us, we didn't understand her, and we had to figure it out. But that's the only relationship she will ever have in her life that needs to be that way. Because from here on out, it doesn't have to be that way. We can teach her and give it the right due time, so that from now on, when it comes to teachers, coaches, etc., there can be that understanding. So she never needs to feel like thrown into the deep end of the pool ever again. You know what I mean? We'll definitely do it though. She's already showed interest in soccer. She mentioned interest in like ballet, dance. So we don't know. We don't know how musical she is yet. We don't know. We don't know these things. We're still getting to know our daughter. We also don't want her to do soccer just because the boys do. We're not going to be those parents that say, we want to be feminists and say that girls can play soccer too. Well, of course they can. But what if they don't want to?
Right.
That they also shouldn't have to do what they don't want to do. So we want her to truly choose and desire things on her own time.
One thing you guys don't know is that Logan and Caleb both had to put sports on hold for almost a year because of this adoption.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know when we were going to go to Indy or not. Because we were supposed to go in May of last year, and that didn't happen. And so any sport that was happening basically March to basically December, they couldn't play. And so they knew that going in, and so when Cadence got home, we told them that as soon as you found a sport that you wanted to play, that we would put you in it, because they waited so long. So that was a sacrifice that they made for their sister. And we also have had our social workers and our home study lady say not to put her in anything for a year. Because
they said one year. Now, we don't know that we feel that strongly. We think that the child should help guide you through that.
Right.
How is the child doing? Let the child show you their comfort level. I mean, everyone has told us that. But yeah, they did say 1 year.
We don't even know how much she understands even when we talk to her.
We still don't know. I mean,
right. And so, she's getting acclimated to church, and she's getting acclimated to her teachers, which change. They're on a rotation.
Church was the first time she ever had a teacher or a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally 20 minutes a week.
Right.
Maybe 30, and her brothers are in the room.
Right.
So she's not alone in a sport, one-on-one. We felt like the church was just the easiest way to like ease her into the idea of learning from someone other than mom. When it comes to things like sports, dance, music lessons, guitar, voice, who knows what it is.
She has to have a strong vocabulary.
She definitely absolutely does, and she's growing that vocabulary. She really is. You can still see times when she doesn't complete a sentence because she does not lose the train of thought. She knows what she feels like she should say, but she loses the vocabulary along the way. And sometimes she'll remember it, and there'll be a pause, and she'll say the word, and sometimes the sentence just ends and she moves on. So I think we'll know when we're hearing her speak and she's completing sentences consistently, her vocabulary's growing, and
she can understand people besides mommy and daddy.
Right. Oh yeah, that's true too.
How we talk, she's getting acclimated to. Having a teacher or a coach that doesn't communicate the way we do is completely foreign.
Yeah.
It's like starting to learn language all over again, depending on who they're learning, their teaching style is.
This coming week makes the 4th month that we've had her home. It's the 4-month mark. And I would say maybe 10% of the time still, we still have to break down our English to a broken level in order to communicate with her. And this is what I mean by that. I'll ask her a question. It will be clear by her facial expression that she doesn't understand what I'm saying, and I'll have to reduce down the complexity of my sentence.
No adjectives.
Take away all adjectives, speak in only nouns and verbs, and say something as simple as why you know listen, or why you do. Like I had to break it down to bare bones to the words I know she knows, and even if it sounds silly to say it that way, she gets it, and then she communicates back with me. We can't expect her coaches or ballet teachers or dance teachers or music teachers to do that. We can't. I mean, God bless the right person if they wanted to do that for her, but it would be too much pressure on that person and very difficult for Katie. So when we're getting to the point where that is almost non-existent, to where even if she can't communicate back with those full, rich, vocabulary-driven sentences, she can still hear what we're saying and understand anything we're saying, we have to keep her from taking that next step until she's ready and we see that she's ready. And another thing will be, she needs to ask for it. She doesn't even ask for soccer.
Right.
We have to ask her, do you want to play? And she'll go, okay, yeah. Like, well, she's not asking. She's not going, oh, Daddy, can I play? Dad, I want to, or anything like that. She's not saying it to Mom. When we talked about...
didn't do that with the boys either.
No.
They came to us and said, hey, can we
I want to play soccer, Dad.
Can we play basketball?
Exactly.
You know, we don't introduce things to our kids if they don't have any interest in it.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we do is music, because music is so linked with the mathematical side of the brain. Music itself is a learning tool.
It cracks me up when people are like, when they ask in such a way that seems pretty like agitated with us that we're not doing that. You're asking her to learn a new skill and to figure out what her teacher's saying. You're asking her to do two things where she's not ready to do one of those two things. So I just think it's funny that we get people that are so emphatic about us doing that when there's two components to that.
Yeah, it's just not as simple as throwing her into it and letting her just sink or swim. We just don't feel like that would be best for her. We probably talked about that enough. We hope that thoroughly answered the question. We want to put her in those extracurriculars when she, first of all, when she wants it. Second of all, when her vocabulary gets to the point that she can handle it, and third of all, when Mommy, Daddy, and her agree she's ready. So it's kind of that simple. Okay, moving on. Question 4. What are your Myers-Briggs results? And some of you went, what?
What was that?
What is that? If you're not familiar with the Myers-Briggs test, it is a personality exam. It would take a long time to explain, but basically what it does is it breaks you down into 4 categories, and those 4 categories are represented by a letter. I am an ESTJ. Melanie is an
ENFJ.
ENFJ. So I'm an ESTJ.
I thought you were not.
ENFJ. I'm an ESTJ.
You're an introvert? You're an extrovert?
I'm an extrovert. Yeah. I'm on the line between introvert and extrovert. I can definitely appreciate time alone, for sure. In fact, sometimes when the camera goes off or when I'm away from people, I just enjoy not talking. Who would think, right? Melanie cannot do that. And that's the difference between an introvert and extrovert. So what does ESTJ and what does ENFJ mean? Well, I have a little blurb here, very short, that I'll read to you about each of us. So the ESTJ profile is called the executive. The ESTJs are representative of tradition and order, utilizing their understanding of what is right, wrong, and socially acceptable to bring families and communities together, embracing the values of honesty, dedication, and dignity. People with the ESTJ personality type are valued for their clear advice and guidance, and they happily lead the way on difficult paths. So, that is why I'm a pastor. My personality just fits completely right into that of a shepherd who cultivates community between families and communities of people, blazes a trail and leads people down a sometimes difficult path, which the path of faith is a struggle of a path. It takes determination and steadfastness. So that's me. I'm the ESTJ. They call it the executive, but in the spiritual world, it would definitely be the shepherd. They don't use that terminology because Myers-Briggs is not a faith-based test. Okay, so that's the ESTJ. That's me. Then we're going to read Mommy's profile. She's the ENFJ. ENFJs are natural-born leaders, full of passion and charisma. Forming around 2% of the population, they are oftentimes our politicians, our coaches, and guess what? Our teachers. Reaching out and inspiring others to achieve and to do good in the world. With a natural confidence that begets influence, ENFJs take a great deal of pride and joy in guiding others to work together to improve themselves and their community. I mean, can you see how the two of us fit together, pastor and his wife? I mean, that is us, and anyone who knows us just heard me read it probably sounds like I wrote it myself about us, but it's us. That is truly our profiles. I don't remember who asked that question, but I hope that's interesting. And even if you have no idea what we're talking about, hopefully that's a little bit interesting to you. So moving on to the next question. Question 5. Where are some places you guys would love to travel and why? Completely shifting gears away from adoption and all this. We're just gonna lighten the mood and talk about travel. So what we did, we would travel everywhere if we could. And I mean everywhere. It would be very cool.
It's like Santa Claus list of all the places we want to go.
I mean, not the least of which is to go back to India. We always get that. Like, hey, will you ever go back to India? Yeah, it would be awesome to go back to India. What we did is we just named 4 places, not including India for our 55% Indian viewers. We named 4 other places.
Places we've never been.
And places we've never been.
That was a criteria.
And it has to be.
Been there.
Yeah, and it has to be international. We didn't do anything in America, okay? So, do you want to go first? Do you want me to? Okay, I'll go first. My first one was the British Isles. I think that when it comes to the beauty of a coastline, you cannot beat the Irish coastline and the coastline of Cornwall. And people are probably like, that isn't that random? Why Cornwall? Well, we watched a show called Poldark, and like 50% of the show is just shots of Aidan Turner riding a horse along the coastlines of England. And I would love to just stand on a cliff on the edge of the ocean there and just breathe in the air and take in the sights. I think that would be incredibly peaceful. And I've seen so many pictures and cinematography of the Irish coasts too. Man, would I just love to go to those places. And obviously there's tons of history. One of the things I love
buffs.
Yeah, and one of the things I love about England particularly is like you can choose your century and find history from that century. Like in America though, we only go back to like the 1600s-ish. I mean, my family came here in 1609. John Chandler was the first Chandler in America. We can trace our roots back to him, and he came over on the Hercules, right? That's amazing. That's just amazing history. But like with England, I mean, choose your century and go way far back, and you can tour places and see things and cathedrals and all kinds of stuff from any period in history. And I just think that is just awesome. There's probably so much you can do in the UK that, and all of the British Isles that, like, you could never see it in a lifetime. So, plenty to do there. Okay, Melanie's going to tell you one of hers.
So what I did, instead of picking out like one place, I picked out tours. So if you know me, that like going to lots of places in a very short amount of time, that seems like me. So there's a cruise that goes from Ireland to Scandinavia, and that's really cool. I think that's awesome. I did like the Norway.
It would be amazing to see the fjords of Norway. She and I
beautiful.
would both love that. Yeah,
beautiful. There's so cute little towns that I've seen pictures of that are just like there's sea and there's coast and it's all, oh my goodness.
Melanie and I both love when you can go to a place and you see things and you go, that is unlike anything we have at home.
Super unique.
Completely unique. Like, we love that about America, but obviously you can only get so different. But you go to like Scandinavia and you see some towns and architecture and things that you go, okay, that is different.
Right.
And we love that. We love new things. Yeah, I would love that one too. If she hadn't chosen it, that could have been one of mine. My second one is also something you could cover in a cruise. You could do a land tour, but I would love to take a like 2-week Mediterranean cruise. And I'm talking like Spain, southern France, Sicily, if it could get us anywhere near Rome, Greece, Turkey, oh man, maybe even Morocco if it went like full all the way around. That'd be a cool place to see once or twice, I don't know, at least once. Just truly different. And what I would love about that is just how every day you wake up in a society that is completely different than the one from the day before. Like when we went to Hawaii, Melanie and I went on our 5th wedding anniversary to Hawaii, every day you woke up in Hawaii and it was the same, and people were the same, and it was a different island, but it was the same. I can't imagine waking up and hearing a different language. Like, that would just be so awesome. And we know people who have done the Mediterranean cruise thing, and they say it's like a trip of a lifetime. And so that would be my second one. Pretty high up on my list of things I want to do. And then Melanie's last one.
I would like to do a Western Europe tour of southern France, Germany, Switzerland, and like, so my heritage, my great grandparents came from Germany over to Ellis Island, and that was how they
1907.
Yeah, that's how they became immigrants to the U.S. And so that, like, Germany is such a strong heritage of mine, that my grandpa, every night my great grandpa would read the Bible in German, and that's how my grandpa would learn about God. So that was like really cool. And so like that, like, there's just so much. And then like Ancestry.com, you can't find Germany.
No.
Like, so basically I know my great grandfather, but nothing else. So we have tried that too. So there's just a lot of history that I would just love to see where they were. Just like, we can go far back in Mike's tree, like super far.
I know my history actually going back to the 1200s.
It's crazy.
In Normandy, France, when Normandy, France was actually English, domineered by the English, conquered by the English. So, but Melanie doesn't have that.
Yeah, I don't know that. So, like, I would really like to go to Germany and just find information out.
Yeah, just turn it into like a...
That
sounds fun. Like, yeah, who are you? Who do you think you are? There was a show on TV called Who Do You Think You Are? And it was like celebrities finding out about their...
Yeah, they would fly over and find things.
Their history.
That's what I would want to do.
That'd be a really cool trip, just to do that and focus on that. So,
really
so that answers that question. And we probably have things we could say all day long. In that same regard, you know, I shared on yesterday's video that some of my heritage is Cuban, and I would love to be able to travel to Cuba, maybe even doing missions work, quite honestly. So that would be on my list too. And we can go on and on, but we will move along for now. Let's see, question 6. What 3 words would describe your family? We chose these ahead of time. So number 1 would be whimsical. And that is a word that 10 years ago I would have vomited at the thought of calling myself, but it is us. We are whimsical. And what I mean by that is...
I rubbed off on you.
For sure. Melanie, the first word she came up with was spontaneous, but I was like, I would actually go further and I'd say whimsical, because we're actually led by our emotions. Like, you know, if we wake up one day, we're the type of family that if we could, and we woke up one day and said, oh man, I just want to go see the sunset, like off of the California coast today. If we could afford it, we'd get on a plane and we'd go do that. Like, we are led by a whim. You know, we like doing things last minute and being crazy, going crazy, right? As Melanie calls it. So that would be the first word we'd use. Number 2 would be faith-oriented. We couldn't think of one word to describe it, so faith-oriented. And that's not just like, you know, it's hard to explain. Some people get it, some people don't. If you're not religious, you probably have no idea what I'm actually meaning by faith-oriented, because I don't mean religious, because religious religious carries a connotation of your faith in action, what you do. I'm talking about your actual faith and your belief system, which forms your worldview. And your belief system actually has a lot to do with how you view everything, what your opinions are on society, culture, people, good and evil. Does good and evil exist? Is there an absolute truth out there? If there is, how can we know it? Things like that. If you're a person of faith, your faith has to influence those things. And because we are people of faith, everything we talk about is through that worldview of those who do believe in a higher power, who do believe in an absolute truth that you can know, that is not unknowable. So faith-oriented, that's the second word we chose. Maybe there's a better word, but that's the one we did. And number 3, energetic. We are energetic. Sometimes people comment on in fact, yesterday we had a few comments where people said, you guys have so much energy. And sometimes we feel like we do, but sometimes we're tired.
We're straight up, right
now. Even
seriously?
right now we're exhausted, and
you don't want to drive after how long were we at the theme park yesterday?
Yeah, I think numerous times in yesterday's video I said, oh, I'm tired. I'm tired all the time, but we just don't let exhaustion stop us from making memories and being with our kids and making the most of every moment that we're given with each other. Well, life is a gift for the time that we have it. Our children are a gift for the amount of time that we're able to steward them, and you might as well make the most of every moment, and energy is pretty pivotal in doing that, right? So energetic was the third word that we chose to describe ourselves. Okay, so that's question 6. What 3 words would you use to describe your family? Whimsical, faith-oriented, and energetic. And then number 7, what was the hardest transition in your family? Was it A, going from no children to having 1 child? Was it B, going from 1 child to having 2 children? Or was it C, going from 2 children to having 3 children? Or was it D, going from 3 children to having 4 children? So, that's a great question. I feel like the people who ask this question are the ones who have 2, but are afraid they'll go insane if they have 3. Melanie and I agree. We talked about this beforehand. We agree that hands down, adoption is more difficult than having a child biologically. You agree?
Absolutely.
Yes. So for us, we have to answer going from 3 to 4 was the hardest, because for us, 3 to 4, that 4th one was an adoption, which was more difficult. And on top of that, referencing what we discussed earlier, that 4th child was an older child for us. If that child had been a baby, we might feel a little different. But she was an older child, she didn't speak English, there was a harder adjustment, and for many families, the adjustment is way harder than you have even seen for us. So, we have to answer going from 3 to 4, it was most difficult. Now, if you take adoption out of the equation, and you just want to know straight up, 0 to 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, just tell us which one's the hardest. Melanie and I kind of feel differently, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
So I'll go first. I would say that the most difficult one was going from no children to having 1. And you're probably thinking, are you kidding me? Wouldn't 2 to 3 be hard and 3 to 4 even be harder? And I used to feel the same way. Quite honestly, before we had any children, I always thought that every time you add a child, it will automatically get harder. It must get harder. But I think as time goes by, the way I actually feel is that it gets a little easier. In fact, when we brought her home, there's something that clicked in our family that I feel like life is so much easier now than it was 6 months ago. I don't know if it's because she's a girl. I don't know if it is just maybe because the boys are learning how to be something a little different than purely all masculine all the time. So maybe the boys are mellowing out. I don't know. I just have no idea how to explain it. So the reason I say 0 to 1 though is because you really have to consider all that changes in your life. And compare that to all that changes in your life when you go from 2 to 3 or 3 to 4. For the first time, you can't do what you want anymore. Your life is over, as they say, right? You can't just wake up on Saturday and say, oh, first of all, wait, pull that back. You can't even sleep in on Saturday anymore. You don't decide what you do. The baby wakes you up, at the time the baby wants this or that, feeding, change me. The baby decides your entire schedule. You don't just go out to dinner and you don't have date nights anymore. I mean, they're done. We lost all the freedom that you have before you have your child. Additionally, think about the amount of sleep you lose. Think about, for the first time ever, you're paying for things like diapers. Some people pay for formula. You have expenses that you've never experienced before. I mean, with 2 and 3 and 4, you have hand-me-downs. You just do. I mean, the carriers and the strollers, they all got reused for every boy. And maybe if you change genders, that gets different. But for us, they were all boys, so it was just hand-me-downs, hand-me-downs, hand-me-downs. I mean, I felt like going from 0 to 1, it rocked our world. Now, we loved it. We wouldn't trade it for anything. It was beautiful. But it changed literally everything in our life. Absolutely everything. In a way that 2, 3, and 4 just did not. I'm probably being very logical in my answer, which if you go back to my personality profile, the EST is thinking, meaning you're more logical than a feeler. Hers was ENF, which is feel. So I'm a T, she's an F, I'm a think, she's a feel. So her answer is probably a little bit more of a feeler's answer than a thinker's answer.
I think it was easy with 1 because it was just me and Caleb, and I wasn't outnumbered. When we went to 3, I was severely outnumbered. It was harder to go to the grocery store. We didn't all fit in a cart. So I think going from 2 to 3 for me was harder. Now, this does not include going from all boys to Katie. That we're not judging that.
Right.
But basically, when I had Timmy, I literally told Mike, I was like, I'm not going anywhere by myself because it's just insane. Yeah. It's insane, and I still don't like going anywhere by myself because
more so now.
Yeah, or not. I still don't like going by myself with kids because it's just complicated and madness, and the listening is just not.
The children listen better when I'm there. They just do, because I'm the main discipliner. I mean, not that she doesn't, but I just am.
I don't know. There's something about when Dad's there. They just, I don't know.
Dad, I don't take crap. I just don't. I love her, but Melanie's the slightest bit of
a feeler. I'm a
feeler. And I'm able to turn that feel off and say, you did wrong. That's it. That's just end of conversation. You can give me 30 reasons why you felt you had to do that, but it was wrong. I cut through it like a knife through butter. And Melanie's like, yeah, but they're my baby. And so she's a little bit of a feeler. So when I'm there, the kids it's easier. But that wasn't the question. Anyways, back to the question.
Well, when you're there,
2 to 3
I'm
was
not
hard.
severely outnumbered either. So, that's what I'm saying. When you go from 2 to 3, you're so severely outnumbered that it literally almost requires an extra pair of eyes. Because you're going to miss something. You're just going to miss something. I remember taking Caleb and Logan to Disney by myself. I could do that with 2 kids because I wasn't, I have 2 hands. I can hold 2 people. I can hold 2 kids.
Right.
Taking 3 kids by myself
You
to
have
Disney
more
is
children
nearly
than the number of
impossible.
hands.
No, and that's what's hard for me.
We know a family that had 3 boys. Their boys are actually grown up now. They're like 20s and maybe in their 30s. I don't know now. And they said when we got pregnant with our 3rd child, and I think actually when we found out he was a boy, they said, you've really done it to yourself now. And they were joking with us, obviously, but they said, you're outnumbered. You're outnumbered.
So severely
not just outnumbered, but you're outnumbered by boys. And that is different than being outnumbered by 2 girls and a boy, or even 2 boys and a girl, or 3 girls. You're outnumbered by 3 boys, and that is a monster unique to its own. So, and we get what that means now that we've had 3 boys. But it's amazing now that she's come home, how that just feels so different. I think something did change with the dynamic of having a girl in the house, and I don't know that they've mellowed, because I think that they're still just very...
I don't think she's mellow, so...
Yeah, because she's not mellow, exactly.
Mellow.
But something has changed, and I wish we could pinpoint it. Maybe we'll discuss it more in a Just the Two episode or something as we continue to figure out what that is. But the dynamic has become very, very interesting, to where life does feel a little bit organized now that she's home. So maybe that's a topic for another day. Anyways, we hope you enjoyed this Q&A video. We're actually just getting off the interstate. We're 3 minutes from from our home. This was
That was
perfect.
yes.
It's a beautiful way to make the last 45 minutes of our journey go by very quickly. If you have any questions you want to send in for a future Q&A video, we hope that you'll send them to the email address that's in the description, or if you want to mail them to us, there's an address down there too. If you like this video, please give it a like and leave a comment. Please share this video, and if you haven't subscribed to Behind the Zoo, please do so. You can also head over to our other channel, Two in a Zoo, and subscribe there. We are daily vloggers. We vlog every day, 365 days a year. We would love if you would follow us along there, but that's it for this video.
We'll see you Wednesday.
See ya.